All right, so normally when I'm working on the weekend, I am completely and totally focused on what I'm doing, on building videos. But today, with the added use of Krea, to animate my videos, it's throwing my creativity off in a way in which it's hard for me to focus on what I'm doing. But while I was doing this, and I'm thinking bigger picture here, I thought, what does it mean for a corporation to discard an employee as if they're absolute junk? For the past 3 years, I've watched the corporation reach down into the bottom of the barrel looking for the cheapest people it could find in order to continue while still making record profits. And it's been a show, a cluster. It's been a lot of words I can't say on YouTube, but you get the idea. To believe that this economy is not in a recession means that you have to close your eyes and hum to yourself that everything's fine and that you're going to be fine, which we all know is a pipe dream. With that said, let's get into our first monologue. When they say for profit, what they really mean is for your destruction. Your body, your mind, your future, everything you have to just fuel for the endless machine. They don't even hide it anymore. They smile while they siphon the life out of you, and somehow we're still told we should feel grateful for the privilege of being used. Remember, having a job isn't a privilege. It's it's a necessary evil. Having to go to work every day, having to sacrifice your life for the greater good of the machine, throwing all your time, your power, your mind, your soul into the machine for greater corporate profits isn't noble. No one is out here as an essential worker that wants to be. We all know what happens to essential workers when they're not necessary anymore. They become disposable workers. And every time I think about that, I think of that guy that they fired last week because they had completely burned him out. He had hundreds and hundreds of leftover tasks that he was supposed to complete that he just was never going to get around to because it was impossible for one person to do that much work. And every time that he got injured at work, it was an incredible inconvenience to the corporation because they need all their little cogs firing at once. If a cog isn't going to work out, then they have systems in place in order to make certain that they replace that cog before he causes any trouble to the other cogs. All right, with that said, let's get into talking point number one. The phrase for profit is just corporate speak for turning people into products. Your body, your time, your emotions, all mind and soul to boost quarterly earnings. You're not a partner, not an investment, your inventory. That's actually something that I felt for a long time at Evil Corp. You're not an investment. They don't care about your future. They don't care about your career. They don't care about you in general. This is why corporations don't want to hire Gen Z. Because in order to polish up Gen Z enough, in order to be able to abuse them, they need to have those 3 to 5 years of experience. No, 3 to 5 years means that you, Evil Corp, has to take on the responsibility of doing those first 3 to 5 years of training. Why would you waste the time and money on Gen Z to train them up to be a worker when you can just find some 35-year-old man that's been working in the industry for 15 years that will take $16 an hour with a master's degree and won't complain because they feel happy that they have anything? We become a country where people are just satisfied enough to have work because no job for the proletariat right now is providing living wages. As I've mentioned before, want an apartment with 1 bedroom? You better be willing to work 2 jobs. Want 2 bedrooms? 3 jobs. And after that, you're going to have to start getting roommates or shacking up with a person that you need in order to provide financial resources. I think in the very near future, we're going to see a lot more people enter the two-person income household out of necessity for survival. It may even become necessary for you to cuddle up at night with this person to keep you warm. That's how bad things are getting in this country, where people no longer have the ability to make it. And you're not going to just shack up with Susie Rottencrotch, who works at Taco Bell and then goes out back to make her real money. You're going to have to shack up with someone who's also making $100,000 a year. Because as I've said before, $250,000 a year is comfortable. 30,000, you're getting close to living on the street. 20,000, you're moving onto the street. 10,000, you're already on the street. There's no way around that because everything has a fixed price. Even this rundown piece of crap apartment with no roaches still eats up a high percentage of my monthly income. Why? Because there is no affordable housing in this area. If you want affordable housing, you're going to have to move out to the outskirts of town, Santan or Levine, which is ironically where my last four bosses lived. My current boss lives way out there past Santan. His commute to come into the office is probably an hour and a half each way with traffic. And this return to work mandate has made everyone around the office more irritated than you could possibly ever imagine, because these are the people that are going to be forced into super long commutes from places like Anthem or Surprise. Yes, there's a guy that I know that commutes each way to Surprise. And you're like, why would anyone do that to themselves? For the same reason why any person puts on a McDonald's uniform, because they have to, not because they want to. None of us work because we want to. None of us are working for extra money. None of us are working to have another car or a bigger house. We're working to stay alive. We live in a world where survival has become normalized through work. You work to survive. We work for food, water, and rent. There isn't much left over for anything else. And intentionally so. We live in a world where all the resources are available. There is more than enough money in this entire world to feed every single person on planet Earth. But you have a handful of people, I wouldn't even call them people, a handful of piece of crap monsters chewing up all of the resources of the world and not wanting to hand anything out. And you mention anything about universal anything, universal healthcare, universal basic income, universal housing, they'll just look at you like, well, if people get things for free, why would they work for Evil Corp? That's their justification, is that everyone needs to earn every single thing that they have while they exploit the entire planet for labor and material resources. Talking point number 2. Companies know burnout is inevitable because they design for it. They have no plan to keep you healthy, only to replace you cheaply when you break. Loyalty is dead. Survival is the only real KPI they track for workers now. This, I believe, is one of the truest things ChatGPT has ever said. They have no interest in keeping you healthy. The weekly health newsletter that you get on a Wednesday, that's not to keep you healthy. That's to bring the illusion that the corporation actually cares whether or not you can wake up and come back to work tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Some reason. ChatGPT just created a man in this animation that she just pulls out of the ground like she's pulling a mushroom out of the ground. I have no idea why it added a guy into this scene. Well, we're going to have to rework it because this isn't working. It's so bizarre to look at this. All right. So, and replacing you cheaper, nearly every person that I've known that's lost their job that made over 100,000 in the past year has been replaced by half a dozen part-time workers that are making just above the minimum wage. Why can they do that? Because it's easier. It's a lot easier to to do this than to continue to spend money on a person you don't want to spend money on. That's what I've come to the conclusion on. They don't want any training. They don't want to give you any means to escape your current job. What they want is for you to be as trapped as humanly possible, and that you keep coming back to the drive-through and you keep putting the fries in the bag, little bro. That's what they want from you. They want you to feel as if there's nothing else. And I felt that so many times when people ask me, it's like, well, are you happy at your job? I just look at them and think, what's wrong with you? Like, are you happy at your job? Like, I've had a few people walk up to me and say it to my face. It's like, you don't like working here. And I'm like, do you like working here? Do you have to have a second and third job because you work here? And I have so many people just come up to me. And I mean, you're talking about hundreds of people over the past few years that just walk up to me and say, hey, I'm leaving on Friday. Friday's my last day. And it was nice knowing you. And that's the last time you ever see them. Sometimes I walk through the parking lot and I think to myself, oh, look, that's where so and so used to park their car. Or whatever happened to that person? Or I hope that person's okay because they got fired ugly. But you think about these things. You think about them. You don't remember their names anymore. They're just their cars or vague descriptions. They're not. Since we've learned to dehumanize people, we've learned to alienate ourselves from the process of watching people get terminated, that we just block it out. At least I do. I don't think about the people that used to work in the front office when I started there. I don't think about the offices they knocked down because they know we're no longer going to fill those positions. They were just going to hand the work to a remote worker and just tell them that they were going to do it. And there has been a lot of layoffs. I'm talking, they're expecting hundreds of layoffs between now and the date, the mandatory return to work date. But you just get used to it. That's the thing that really bothers me, is that we just get used to it. We live in such an unhealthy work environment that we just get used to. It's like working at a graveyard, and more bodies just keep getting put into the ground. Talking point number 3: pizza parties, family culture, inspirational emails. It's all a distraction. They can't offer real support, so they offer noise, free food, fake awards, meaningless slogans. They hope that they blast enough glitter in your face you won't notice the slow erosion of your humanity. Oh my gosh, I feel that 100% in my soul every time they bring in donuts or they announce that they're going to be making hot dogs for lunch. But, and this is the best part, sometimes when they offer this food, they charge you for it anyway. So if you're going to go to the company picnic, you better bring your wallet because there's not going to be anything free. That to me is unbelievable. Or when they announce that they're bringing the food trucks. Oh, that's my favorite one. It's like, hey, today the food trucks are going to be here at a certain time. Is there going to be anything free there? They're like, no, but the food trucks are here. So if you want, you can run out there and get yourself something. I've seen these food trucks. They do the same thing at the ASU Research Park where they have those, I don't know what kind of businesses they are. They seem to be some sort of technology businesses because there's an Amazon right across the parking lot. But the workers come out on both Saturdays and Sundays to eat at the food trucks. And you think to yourself, this is how little you think of your workers. You're going to put a vending machine in front of the corporation and then tell them that they're doing this for their benefit. I feel like they do that a lot at corporations. Like, hey, we have to offer you health benefits. We're going to charge you $150 a paycheck. But by the way, we're not giving you any time off to use those medical benefits. Also, we're going to make the benefits practically nothing. They're practically worthless because of the high copays and high levels of money that you have to put into every single prescription. Like the last time I went to get my prescriptions, it was like $120. And I looked at the pharmacist And I asked him, it's like, well, what exactly is the insurance covering? It's like, you wouldn't believe how much these drugs cost. And I'm like, oh, great. So, yeah, every part of daily life is robbery. It's highway robbery. The low wages, the crappy hours, the sadistic management, the fact that you live in constant fear of losing your job. Because there was one time, this was a few years back, I was working for this company, and HR person would come out to the floor and they start looking around for the person that they were going to fire. This terrified one of my coworkers so much that whenever he saw that HR person come out, he would go to the bathroom and stand on the toilet. And this was so that no one could go looking for him in the bathroom and see his feet, just in case it was him. That's real fear, especially if you have a family, a mortgage, and you know that the job market right now is very, very bad. Terrible. In fact, I was looking at the numbers that CNN posted about all the federal workers that have been let go, and it's over 100,000 people that have lost their job because of the this clown. I mean, that's all you can say. You let a clown take over, and now you're wondering why it's a circus. I don't understand how people didn't know that this was going to happen. Anyhow, I don't want to say anything else because I know there's people here that strongly believe in this chaos. And I'm hoping that something changes. Some real voice out there comes through it and says, we're all adults here. We live in a society where people need help. The vast majority of the proletariat is in dire need of help, of free higher education, lowering rent and lowering food prices. Because they're not doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they can. Every aspect of dealing with rich people is just greed on an on a level that's been unchecked. Inflation doesn't need to be inflation. You can afford to raise your employees' wages without raising the cost of your products. Just let take less record profits every year because your record profits are destroying this the way of life of ordinary people. The average person's quality of life at this point is awful. We spend all of our time working, all of our time worrying, and we always wonder what's going to happen to me. There's no stability with any part of your life at this point. For months and months and months, I felt like I was on the edge. I was on the edge of not wondering what was going to happen to me because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. But with that said, let's get into our closing monologue here. The system isn't broken, it's functioning exactly as it was built to drain you, dump you when you're empty. But your worth has never been tied to how much pain you can endure for a paycheck. The real rebellion is refusing to let them turn you into another hollow shell, clapping at a pizza party. You were meant for more, and deep down, you know it too. Everyone that's wearing a uniform right now, anyone that's working on the weekend right now, anyone that's suffering the indignity of work, it doesn't have to be this way. This is the thing that I this is why I make these videos. Things don't have to be this way, but we're allowing them to be this way. We're allowing them to normalize the destruction of the proletariat because there's no way that people are going to be doing better in a world that is crushing them every single day. Because rich people have a real stiffy for poor people. They don't want to see them get ahead because any worker that gets ahead means you can't exploit that worker for record profits.